So in this lecture we will continue with the continuity of the function, and we will again discuss this some of the important concept about the fixed point theorem and identity theorem, and then intermediate value property. So let's start with the first concept is fixed point or fixed point theorem. So first definition is fixed point. So if f is a function, say defined from R to R, be a function or you can in general you can define from a set A to R, then the point alpha belongs to A is called a fixed point if f of x is exactly equal to x for all x belong f of alpha is the same as alpha, that is the real number whose image is a self image is called a fixed point. A simple example, if we will take f of x is equal to say sine of x and say x belonging to real line, then we have to find the fixed point of this function. So by geometrically, if this is a y equal to x line, then the graph of sine of x is this one. So any point alpha is called a fixed point if f of x is equal to x. So basically, if we will consider a new function gx is equal to x or x belongs to R, then the intersection point, that is f alpha equal to g alpha, that is equal to alpha, then alpha must be called a fixed point. So geometrically, alpha is a fixed point of the function f if the function f intersect the curve y equal to x line at alpha. For example, in the case of sine of x, see the intersection point of y equal to x line with this curve sine of x is only 0. So this implies f of 0 is obviously 0. So 0 is only fixed point. So 0 is only fixed point of this function. Let's take another example. If we will take f of x is equal to say 0 and 1 whenever x belonging to q and x belonging to q complement. Now we have to find the number of a fixed point of this function. So just by definition, or assuming that this function is defined from R to R. So by definition of a fixed point, the alpha belongs to R is a fixed point if simply f of alpha is equal to alpha. Now let's consider alpha is a rational number or alpha is irrational number. So in first case, alpha is a rational number, so f of alpha must be equal to 0. This should be equal to alpha. So that is alpha equal to 0 is a fixed point. So alpha equal to 0 must be a fixed point. Whenever alpha belongs to q complement, then f of alpha should be equal to alpha, implies since f alpha is 1, so alpha equal to 1. But alpha is irrational number, so alpha is never equal to 1. So that is 0 is only fixed point of this function. So this one is a second example. Next, if we will take another example, say f of x is equal to tan of x, which is defined from R minus 2n pi 2n plus 1 pi by 2 R. So this is your exam question. Then question is, if A is a set of all alpha belongs to this X such that f of X is equal, or f of alpha is equal to alpha, then what about the set A? Countable, finite, empty, non-empty. So we have to identify this one. So geometrically, if we will draw the graph of tan of X, so say this point is pi by 2, or this is minus pi by 2, then at 0 tan of X must be 0. As x tends to pi by 2, tan of X tends to plus infinity. As x tends to minus pi by 2, tan of X tends to minus pi by 2. So basically this one is the graph, and tan of X is the periodic, so same graph is getting repeated in this one. So say this point is pi and this is 3 pi by, then in this case at pi value is 0, as x tends to 3 pi by 2, tan x tends to plus infinity. X tends to pi by 2 from right hand side, then tan of X tends to minus infinity. Similarly, this point is minus pi, or this is minus 3 pi by. So again, as x tends to minus pi by 2 from left hand side, so this value tends to plus infinity, and right hand limit at minus pi by 2 is just minus infinity. Just use the value of the tan function. So this is the approximate graph of the tan of X. Now if you will compare tan x with X, so you can easily find the y equal to X line is this one. So in the interval of minus pi by 2 to pi by 2, there is only one intersection point. So in this interval, this curve y tan x intersecting the y equal to X exactly at one point. And in next interval pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2, again we will extend this one. So this is another fixed point. Again, if we will take interval minus 3 pi by 2 to pi by 2, again there is only one fixed point. That is, for all region 2n plus 1 or 2n minus 1 pi by 2, or if we will take any interval 2n minus 1 pi by 2 to 2n plus 1 pi by 2. For example, n equal to 0, so minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. N is equal to 1, so this value is pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2. So in this interval there is exactly one fixed point. So there exists exactly, or there exists, say this is I of n, there exists exactly one xn belongs to I of n such that f of xn is equal to xn. So basically A is union of all these xn, or xn belongs to I. Now the collection of this interval is countable, or in each interval there is exactly one fixed point. Hence this set must be a countable or exactly countably infinite set. So we have a function tan of x which has countably infinite number of fixed points. So in the first example, fx equal to sin x, there is exactly one fixed point. In second example, fx equal to 0 whenever x is member of Q, there is, and x is equal to 1 whenever x is member of Q complement, then again there is a one fixed point. And in third example, there are countably infinite fixed point. Let's take another example. F of x equal to x plus sin of x, say defined from R to R. So first we will draw the graph of this function. So sin of x always lying between 1 to minus 1. So definitely x plus sin x less than or equal to 1 plus x and greater than or equal to x minus 1. Now first we will find the region on which this curve and this curve are intersecting. So x minus 1 is equal to x plus sine of x. So this implies sine of x should be equal to minus 1. Or sine of x is equal to minus 1. So by graph of sine x function. So this is the graph of sine x function. So sine of x is equal to minus 1 at 3 pi by 2. Then 7 pi by 2 and so or this point is minus pi by 2. So these are only point at which sine of x is negative value or take exactly minus 1. So we can write down x is equal to say 3 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2, 11 pi by 2, or basically in general x is 4n minus 1 pi by 2. So whenever n equal to 1 to 3 pi by 2, n equal to 2 7 pi by 2 and so on. So these are points whenever this curve is intersecting this line. Secondly, the point whenever this curve is intersecting this line. So x plus 1 should be equal to x plus sine of x. So definitely sine of x is equal to 1. So definitely x is a pi by 2, then 5 pi by 2, then 9 pi by 2 and so on. So we can write down x is equal to basically 4n plus 1 pi by 2. So whenever n is equal to 0, then value is pi by 2, n is equal to 1, value is 5 pi by 2, n equal to 2, value is 9 pi by 2. In this case, n varying from 1 to 3. Thus, we are taking graph on the positive x-axis, then we will take same reflection about the negative x-axis. Again, third, the point whenever this function is 0 or this function intersecting the y equal to x line. So x is equal to x plus sine of x. Basically, we are finding the fixed point. So this implies sine of x should be 0. That is, x must be n pi. So pi, 2 pi, 3 pi and so on. So let's draw the graph and find the exactly what are the fixed point. So from this calculation, the set of fixed point is x equal to n pi. That is, there are countably infinite fixed point. Now, the graph of y equal to x plus 1 line. So at x equal to 1, value is 0. At x equal to minus 1, value is, at x equal to 1, value is 1. At x equal to 0, value is 1. At x equal to minus 1, value is 0. So basically, this is the straight line, which is x plus 1. And this is also parallel. So at x equal to 0, value is a minus 1. At x equal to 1, value is 0. So this is the parallel straight line. And this one is the y equal to x. At 0, this function value is 0. At pi by 2, this curve intersecting this line or touching this line. At 3 pi by 2, touching this line. So in between there is point pi. So basically, this is something at pi by 2, then pi, then after that 3 pi by 2, then 2 pi and so on. So this is the approximate one. And minus pi by 2, then minus pi, then minus 3 pi by 2. These are the, so this is the approximate graph of this point. And these are points which are fixed point. And you can also verify this function is a strictly increasing function. So we will use this information in upcoming examples. So again, we have an example fx equal to x plus sine x with exactly countably infinite number of fixed point. So I think clear the definition. What is the fixed point? A point or a real number in which image of that given real number is self-image. Then it is called a fixed point. So let's write down some of the theorem which is called fixed point theorem. So what is the fixed point theorem? If f is a function defined from closed interval ab to say a, just I'm writing the general case. F is a function which is defined from a closed interval ab to a, and f is a continuous function. First information. Second information is the range of the set A contained in closed interval A. That is, the codomain is already contained in this closed interval A. Then this always implies f has a fixed point. So every continuous function on closed interval to a set A such that the codomain contained in the given closed interval must have a fixed point. So this one is the important concept. Why this? First, let me check it geometrically. So f is defined from, or say this is A point and this is B point. Whenever you have to find the fixed point, first of all, just draw the line y equal to x line. So definitely this point is A comma E, and this point is B comma E. Then find the value of initial point f of A. Definitely f of A belongs to A, and this set is contained in closed interval AB. So f of A must be greater than or equal to A. So at A, value of fa either equal to A or greater than or equal to A. So we can assume that this value point is A comma fa. Next, f of B also belongs to A, which is again contained in A to B. So this implies f of B must be less than or equal to B. So this distance is B distance, but FB is less than or equal to. So we can assume that this is B comma FB point. Now we have to start from this because function is a continuous. We have to start from this and reach to this point without picking the pen. So definitely there must exist at least one fixed point. So if this is curve, then 3 fixed point. If this is curve, then there is exactly one fixed point. So geometrically, we have proved that this function must have a fixed point. Otherwise, whenever you have to prove mathematically, so what you have to do, just define a function g of x, which is f of x minus x. Since f is a continuous function, so g must be continuous function on closed interval a. And with respect to f, we have information f of a greater than or equal to a, and f of b is less than or equal to b. We have already discussed this property. So definitely g of a, which is fa minus a, is greater than or equal to 0, and g of b, fb minus b, is less than or equal to 0. Now g is a continuous function. At a value is a non-negative, at b value is a non-positive. So definitely there exists gamma belongs to closed interval ab such that g at gamma is equal to 0, implies f at gamma is equal to gamma. So definitely this function must have a fixed point. So this theorem is called fixed point theorem. So any function which is continuous on closed interval to a domain A must have a fixed point. So let's write down the question. Just try and let me know your answer on WhatsApp group or Telegram group. Let f is a function which is defined from a set A to B, a continuous function. Then f has a fixed point. If so, we have to pick the case whenever there is guarantee to existence of the fix. So first option is if A is equal to close interval 0 1 and B is equal to open 0 close 1. Second, if A is equal to open 0 close 1 and B is equal to open 0 1. Third is if A is equal to close 0 1 and B is open 0 1. And D is if A is open 0 1 and B is close 0 1. So the case in which the function f must have a fixed point. So just try by yourself and let me your answer on Telegram group or WhatsApp group. So next one is some of the other information about the fixed point whenever it is defined on real line. So let f is a function defined from R to R and f is continuous function. So any continuous function which is defined from R to R with extra information is f is bounded. So f is a function which is defined from real line to real line and it is continuous function or extra information is bounded. Now this always implies f has a fixed point. So every continuous function from real line to real line which is a bounded must have a fixed point. Why this? So let f of x is a less than or equal to capital M and greater than or equal to small m for all x belongs to R. Since given function is bounded, so if we will draw the graph of this function fx, so this is y equal to capital M line and this one is y is equal to small m line. Now your function is bounded above by capital M and function is bounded below by small m. So and this is y equal to x line. So now at 0, so first situation, if f0 is 0, so definitely 0 must be a fixed point. So whenever your function is defined from real line to real line and you have to identify whether it has a fixed point, so if f is bounded, definitely there exists a fixed point. Then you have to decide whether there is a positive real number which is fixed point or negative real number which is fixed point. So just calculate the value at 0. So f0 is 0, then definitely 0 must be a fixed point. Second case, if f at 0 is a positive, so at 0 value of a function is positive. So this is 0 comma f0 point. Now your function is continuous and this capital M is upper bound. So definitely since this is tends to plus infinity or this function is bounded above, so definitely there must exist alpha such that fx equal to f of alpha equal to alpha. So in this case there exists alpha greater than 0 such that f at alpha is equal to alpha. So every continuous function defined on R which is bounded above and f0 is positive has a positive number which is fixed point. Similarly, if f0 is negative, the next case is if f0 is less than 0. So we can assume that this point is 0 comma f0. Then as x tends to minus infinity, this function is bounded below, so definitely curve can be of this form. So there must exist beta, since as x tends to minus infinity, this curve tends to minus infinity, or as x tends to minus infinity, your f of x is bounded below. So definitely there exists a beta such that f beta equal to beta. So there is beta less than 0 such that f of beta is equal to beta. So this is the another case. So whenever your function is defined from real line to real line and it is a continuous function, then the boundness of the function guarantee that it must have a fixed point. And if f0 is positive, then there exists a positive number which is fixed point, and f0 is negative, then there must exist a negative real number which must be a fixed point. So let's write down another example. So question is, f is a function say from real line to real line, and also f is continuous function. Then R to A. F is a function from R to A and f is a continuous function. Then f has a fixed point. If first option A is a compact set, second option A is open interval 0 1, third option A is 0 to infinity, D option A is a bounded set. So just you have to identify the case in which this function which is defined from R to A is a continuous function and there is a guarantee for existence of the fixed point. First, whenever A is a compact set. So any continuous function from R to a compact set has a fixed point. So you have to identify this one. And second is any continuous function which is defined from R to open interval 0 1 has a fixed point. So again you have to identify this statement. And any continuous function which is defined from real line to plus infinity has a fixed point or not. Again, every continuous function which is defined from R to a bounded set has a fixed point. So last we have already proved that. Just try by yourself and again let me know your answer on WhatsApp or Telegram. And the next concept is which is most important theorem, which is called identity theorem. So let's write down what is the definition of identity theorem. So if f is a say function which is defined from real line to real line, you can also define from closed interval to R or real line to real line, be a continuous function. So f is any function which is defined from R to R and continuous function. Or extra information is A and B are two subsets of R. So first, function is defined from real line to real line and A and B are any two subsets of R such that A is a dense in R or set of limit point of A is R. And second, B dash is a phi, that is B does not have any limit point. So first information, function is continuous, second A is a dense in R, or third B does not have any limit point. And next information is the image of A is contained in B. So then what is the conclusion? So that we have to identify. So let's come to conclusion. First, write down the given information. First, f is a function which is defined from R to R, and also this function is a continuous. Now, how to use the information? Since function is defined from R to R and real line is an interval, and we have proved that the image of interval is always interval. So use of the continuity is the f of R is an interval. So first information what we can use, since real line is interval and we have already proved that the image of an interval under a continuous function must be an interval. So this one is the first information. Now second one is already given that f of A contained in B. Now if we will take alpha belongs to A complement, So what is use of this information? Since alpha belongs to a complement, so definitely alpha is also real number. Implies alpha belongs to a dash. So every member of a complement is a limit point of a. Then by sequential definition, there must exist alpha n sequence defined on a for all n belongs to natural number, such that alpha n never equal to alpha, but alpha n converges to alpha. Thus the sequential definition of a limit point. Now the continuity of the functions implies f of alpha n must converges to f of alpha. Since function is a continuous, so alpha n converges to alpha, so f of alpha n must be converges to alpha n. Now each alpha n belongs to a, so this implies f of alpha n belongs to b. So this is the information. Now this f of alpha n be a sequence defined on b and it is converges to f alpha. Now if f of alpha n not equal to f of alpha for all n belongs to natural number, so we have a sequence whose terms from b and its f of alpha n never equal to f of alpha and it is converges to f of alpha. So by sequential definition of limit point, so f of alpha must be a limit point of b, that is member of b dash, but b dash is empty. So this is contradiction. So this implies there must exist k belongs to natural number such that f of alpha k must be equal to f of alpha. Now this alpha k is member of a, so f of alpha k belongs to b. So definitely this f alpha belongs to b. So that is image of every member of a complement is also contained in b. So what is use of this a dash equal to r and b dash equal to r? So whenever we are using this one, so we have proved that the image of every real number is contained in P. Now f of r is an interval and it is contained in P. So if f of r is a non-singleton interval, f of r is non-singleton interval. So every non-singleton interval contains uncountable number of elements. So if f of r is a non-singleton interval, so it must be uncountable, or if it is uncountable, then b is uncountable. Or we know that every uncountable set has uncountable number of limit points. So if f of r, since f of r is an interval, is not equal to singleton sum a, so this implies f of r is uncountable. If f of r is non-singleton, then it must be uncountable, implies b is uncountable. Or if b is uncountable, implies b dash is uncountable. So which is again contradiction. So definitely f of r is a singleton set. So range of this function is a singleton set, so definitely f is constant function. So the definition of a constant function, if range contains only one element, then it must be constant. So what is conclusion? Whenever f is a function from real line to real line and a and b are subset of r, with a is dense in r or a dash is equal to r and b dash is phi, then and f of a contained in b, then f must be a constant function. For example, in particular case, f is a function defined from real line to real line, which is a continuous function such that f of q contained in n. So A is equal to Q, B is equal to N. So A dash is R, B dash is phi. So this obviously implies F is constant. Similarly, we can take another example. F is a function defined from real line to real line, or from close interval 0, 1 to real line, a continuous function such that some f of a contained in Z, where a is basically m by 2n, with m is m or n belongs to natural number, with m is odd and m is less than 2n. So in the chapter of a point set topology, we have proved that a dash is equal to close 0, 1, and in this case b is equal to z, so b dash is equal to phi. So use the identity theorem on closed interval, so implies f is constant function. So any continuous function defined on closed interval to real line must be a constant function. Or without identity theorem, you can also prove that since image of a closed interval under continuous function is a closed interval, now this image of this set is contained in Z, so definitely it must be a constant function. Try to prove by using property of a closed interval. Let me write down one of the question which is in your exam, and what is the application of the identity theorem. So question is, which of following set is similar to R? Similar, that is, there is a bijection between R and the given set. And first option is, say x1, set of all functions from real line to real line such that f is constant function. Second option is, say x2, set of all functions from R to R with f is a polynomial function. Third one is x3, set of all functions from real line to real line such that f is continuous function. And D1 is x4, which is set of all functions from R to R. F is simply function. So just we have to identify which of following set is similar to set of rational. So we have already discussed in the first chapter, if x is a set of all functions which is defined from a to b, f is a function, then number of element in x is the number of element in b whole power number of element in a. So for fourth option, the cardinality of x4 is definitely cardinality of c, cardinality of r to the power cardinality of r, which is c to the power c, which is 2 to the power c, which is f. And this is similar to power set of real number. So this we have already discussed in the first chapter, countability of uncountability. C to the power c is the same as 2 to the power c, which is f, and f is greater than c, so definitely this is not a similar to set of real number. So fourth option definitely false. Now in first case, there are uncountable number of functions, so cardinality of this x1 is at least cardinality of r. Similarly, there are uncountable number of polynomial with real coefficient, so definitely cardinality of x2 again greater than or equal to cardinality of r. And same, this x3 is contains x2 or x1, so cardinality of x3 also greater than or equal to cardinality of r. Now if we will prove that the x3 is similar to r, then definitely x1 or x2 also similar to r. So let's come to x3. If we will define y, which is set of all functions from q to r since f is any, simply f is function. So definitely cardinality of y is cardinality of r, which is c to the power cardinality of q, which is alif naught, and c to the power alif naught is the same as 2 to the power alif naught, which is c. That is, this set y is similar to real line. Now, what is use of this y? For every f belongs to x3. So if f is a member of x3, so definitely f is a function from R to R and it is continuous function. Define f cap, which is from Q to R, such that f cap of x is equal to f of x for all x belongs to. So basically f cap is a restriction of f on Q, and restriction of function always exists and it is unique. So corresponding to every f belongs to f x cube x3, there always exists f cap, or definitely this f cap belonging to y, because it is a function from Q to R. So with respect to every f belongs to x3, there is f cap which is member of y. So we can define a function phi which is from x3 to x3 to y, such that phi of f is equal to f cap. Since corresponding to every f there exists f cap, so this function must exist. Now if this function is 1 1, then cardinality of x3 definitely less than or equal to cardinality of y, or cardinality of y is at most exactly c, so definitely cardinality of x3 less than or equal to c, or obviously cardinality of x3 greater than or equal to c, so hence cardinality of x3 is c. So we have to prove that this phi function is 1 1 or not. So let's take the definition. If phi of f is equal to phi of g, so this implies f cap must be equal to g cap. This implies f of x must be equal to g of x for all x belongs to q. Since f cap and g cap is the same as f and g whenever x belongs to rational number. Now define a function h which is from real line to real line, such that h of x is equal to f of x minus g of x. Since f and g are continuous functions, so this must be a continuous function. And h of q, so since x belongs to q, f is the same as g, so h definitely 0. So h of q contained in singleton 0. Now this set is something A and this set is B. Now A dash is equal to R, B dash is 5. So definitely H is a constant function. The application of identity. Since the images of every rational number is 0, as f and g are same at q, so use the identity theorem on H. So h must be a constant function. Since images of rational number is 0, so definitely h of x must be 0 for all x belongs to R. Or if h is 0, so this implies f must be equal to g. So whenever images are same, implies element must be same. Hence this function must be a 1 1 function. Or if this is a 1 1 function, so number of element in x3 must be lesser or equal to number of element in y. Implies x3 is also similar to R. Or if x3 is similar to R, so x2 and x1 obviously subsets of x3 and they are also similar to R. So your answer is A, B, C, and D definitely. So in a continuation of the lecture of our continuity, so we will discuss the intermediate value property. So what is the intermediate value property? If f is a function say from or IVP, intermediate intermediate value property. So if f is a function, say defined from real line to real line, so this can be defined on closed interval to R or real line to real line, be a function, then we say f satisfying or f has IVP if for every alpha and beta belonging to R, and assuming that f of alpha less than or equal to f of beta, so this is assumption, or f of beta greater than f of alpha, then for all k belongs to R such that f of alpha lesser or equal to k less than or equal to f of beta implies there exists some gamma belongs to the interval alpha beta. So this is important. F is a function from R to R, then f has a IVP if with respect to every alpha and beta belongs to R, if k is in this range, then there is gamma belongs to this such that f of gamma must be equal to k. Then this function is called satisfying the intermediate value property. And we have already proved that if f is a function which is defined from real line to real line and it is a continuous function. If f is a function from real line to real line and it is a continuous function, then for all alpha beta belongs to R, we can restrict this function from closed interval alpha beta to R, again continuous function, and image of a closed interval under a continuous function is always a closed interval. So this must be is equal to small, say m alpha, capital M alpha, or small m and capital M, where small m is infimum of f whenever x belongs to this closed interval alpha and beta, and capital M is supremum of f whenever x belonging to alpha and beta. So this we have already proved that. Now, so definitely small m is less than or equal to f alpha and f of beta less than or equal to capital M, or we can assume that this one. So this is your assumption. Otherwise you can write down reverse case. Now for any k belongs to R such that f of alpha less than or equal to k less than or equal to f of beta, since range of this function is small m to capital M, so with respect to every k which is in between small m to capital M, there is a preimage, so there must exist gamma belongs to alpha to beta such that f of gamma is equal to k. So that is every continuous function from R to R has a intermediate value property. So first information is continuous function from R to R or continuous function on closed interval always is satisfying the IVP. Next, if we will take an example, say f of x is equal to 2 of x whenever x belonging to say 0 to 1 closed interval, and 6 minus 2 of x whenever x belongs to open 1 and close 2. So basically f is a function defined from closed interval 0 to R. Now we have to verify whether this f is a satisfying IVP or not. So let's draw the graph of this function. So between 0 to 1, this function is representing f of x equal to 2x. So straight line passing through origin with slope 2 between 0 to 1. and between 1 to 2 this is 6 minus 2x. So at 1 this value is tending to 4, at 2 this value is tending to 2. So basically this is at 1 2, or we can write down this point is 1. So this is the graph of f. Now if we will take this alpha and say this is beta, then this value must be f of alpha and this value must be f of beta. Now if this function satisfying IVP, so definitely for every k between f alpha and f beta, the pre-image, so if we will take this k, so f of alpha less than k less than f of beta, so if f has IVP, so there must exist some gamma which should be in alpha to beta with f of gamma is equal to k. Now in this case, if we will take this k, then the pre-image of this k is gamma, but gamma does not belongs to alpha beta. So there does not exist gamma in between alpha beta such that image of gamma is equal to k. So that is, this function does not satisfy IVP. Or what is important in this function? In this region this function is strictly increasing, and in this region this function is strictly decreasing. So obviously this function is a 1 1 function. If we will take open from, so in this case we can consider this function open from 2. So definitely this function is 1 1 but does not satisfy IVP. So we have information, if a function is 1 1, it need not be have intermediate value property. Next is, if we will consider another function, f of x is equal to say sine of 1 by x whenever x is non-zero, or 0 whenever x is 0, and assuming that x belonging to say some minus 1 to 1, or we can take minus 1 by 2 to 1 by 2. Now the graph of sine 1 by x, as x tends to 0 from left to right, this value tends to 0. So you can easily draw the graph of sine of 1 by x. So this is y equal to 1 line, this is y equal to minus 1 line. As x tends to infinity, this value tends to 0, or as x tends to minus infinity, this value also tends to 0. So basically this is a something graph. So in the neighborhood of 0 there are infinite oscillation, and then something this one. In this case there are infinite oscillation, and this one something. So this is the approximate graph of a sine 1 by x. At 0 value is already 0. Now if we will take this region, we can define this on between alpha beta, then this value is something f alpha, this value is something f beta. Between any k belonging to f alpha and f beta, there must exist pre-image in between alpha and beta. That is, this f function, whenever x belonging to say minus 1 to 1 or some alpha to beta, f has a intermediate value property. But as x tends to 0 from left or right, limited does not exist. So this f is not continuous function. So if a function has IVP, does not imply it is a continuous function. But if a function is a continuous, then it must satisfy the IVP property. So this one is an important theorem. So what we have information, first information. So if f is continuous or R to R continuous, implies f has IVP. And second, if say f is again from R to R, you can also consider from function from R to R. is has IVP does not implies f is continuous. But what about the discontinuity of a function with satisfying IVP? So if f is a function which is defined from real line to real line and it has intermediate value property, then f does not have jump type discontinuity. So every function on a real line which is satisfying the IVP does not have a discontinuity which is of the form jump type, or we can also say that removable discontinuity does not have removable discontinuity. So simple reason, if a function has, say this is alpha point and it has a jump type discontinuity, from left hand side this is L1 limit, from since left hand limit and right hand limit are not equal, so we can assume that left hand limit is less than right hand limit, and from right hand side limit can be L2. So we can choose, this is, say A is a point of discontinuity, so we can pick alpha such that this is f of alpha, and we can pick the beta such that this value is f of beta. Now if we will take a k, then the pre-image of k does not exist and k lying between alpha and beta. So whenever a function has a jump type discontinuity, then it never satisfying the IVP. So definitely we can also write down, if f is a function which is defined from say R to R and f has jump type discontinuity, implies f does not satisfy IVP. Or if this statement is a P statement and this statement is Q, so not Q implies not P. That is, f has IVP, then it never have a jump type discontinuity. And what is use of this statement again? If f is a monotonic function from R to R or from closed interval to R, and f has IVP. F is a monotonic function and it has satisfying the IVP property. Now since f is a monotonic function, so we have already proved that the point of discontinuity of monotonic can be at most jump type discontinuity. So if f is a discontinuity, f is a discontinuous, then it can have at most jump type discontinuity. But f is already satisfying IVP, so it never have a jump type discontinuity. So definitely this implies f is continuous function. So every monotonic function with a IVP is a continuous function. So this is another information. Next is the relationship between one continuous function and monotonic function. So if f is, say, defined from some closed interval AB to R, you can extend on real line. F is a function which is defined from closed interval AB to R, and f is a continuous and one function. So continuous function with injective property. So what will be the conclusion? So there must be some conclusion. So let me write down some of the information. Since f is 1, so definitely f of A never equal to f of B. F is 1, so f of A never equal to f of B. So first situation is f of A is less than f of B. Now, if f is a non-monotonic, then if we will take x1 belonging to open interval AB, so this implies either, since f is a non-monotonic, so there must exist some x1 which is in open interval ab such that either f of x1 less than f of a less than f of b, or f of a less than f of b less than f of x, because they are never equal since function is 1 1. So this either of them property must hold. Now also function is a continuous, so it must satisfy the IVP. So in between f of x1 and f of b there is f of a, so definitely there exists some gamma belongs to x1 to b such that f of gamma must be equal to f of a. Similarly, f is a continuous, so there must exist gamma belongs to a to x1 such that f of gamma is equal to f of b. Now gamma belongs to a to x1, so this implies gamma is never equal to b, and in this case gamma belongs to x1 to b, so definitely gamma is never equal to a. But f of gamma equal to fa, that is function is not 1 1, but we have 1 1 function, so definitely this is false and this is also false. So whenever f of a is less than f of b, then function must be monotonic and it definitely monotonically decreasing. Or similarly you can prove that if f of a is greater than f of b, then this function must be monotonically decreasing. So what we have conclusion that whenever f is a function defined from closed interval ab to r and it is continuous and monotonic, so continuity plus monotonic. So if first equation f of a less than f of b, then this implies f is a strictly increasing function. And second, if f of a greater than f of b, implies f is a strictly decreasing function. So every continuous and 1 1 function is strictly monotonic function. So conclusion is every continuous and 1 1 function on R or on closed interval is strictly monotonic. So this one is important information. And same with the help of this, if f is again function defined on closed interval ab to r, any function which is defined on closed interval ab to r such that f is 1 1 or injective and f has IVP. So same proof, if f has IVP, since we have used in last case f is continuous, so f must have IVP, or with the help of IVP we have proved that this implies f is either strictly increasing or strictly decreasing depending on fa and fp. And if f is 1 1 has IVP, then it is strictly increasing or strictly decreasing, that is f must be monotonic, or monotonicity plus IVP implies f is continuous function. So this is another information. Whenever a function is 1 1 and satisfying IVP, then it is must be strictly monotonic and it is continuous function. So what are the relation between IVP and continuity? Every continuous function is satisfying IVP. If a function satisfying IVP does not imply it is continuous, 1 1 function may or may not have IVP, then monotonic function plus IVP is continuity, or if a function has IVP, then it never have a jump type discontinuity. Based on this we can prove that the monotonic function with IVP must have continuity. Next is, if a function is continuous plus 1 1, then it must be strictly monotonic. And finally, if a function is 1 1 and IVP, then it is a strictly monotonic, and strictly monotonic and IVP implies it is continuous. So these are some of the relationship between IVP, 1 1 and monotonicity and continuity of the function.